Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. So we got a group strategy guide for brute force. This is the method I'd recommend that you farm Naberus Knight's event through. And yeah, we've got a group strategy guide today involving multiple frames, weapons, and builds. I did have a guide similar to this last week. That was for solo. This is for the full squad, and also we've been grinding this mission a lot. So I've actually got some new tips for you compared to last week. So let's hop right into the guide video. Before we do, make sure to sub this channel. Daily Warframe video uploads, build videos, news videos, strategy guides, all that kind of stuff. Great place for from content. Additionally, this strategy guide will work when it's not Naberus Knights, but right now there's a better reason than usual to do this event as Naberus Knights is around. It's also a decent farm for Aya, but not exactly the best Aya farm in the game. I might have a video on the best Aya farm in the game next couple of weeks, but we'll see about that. Okay, so as far as what we want to do for this strategy guide, you're going to be going to the Deimos, and you're going to be setting a special bounty. This bounty will have the same bounty steps every single time, and these bounty steps are the best ones you can possibly get on this planet. So this is the fastest bounty possible. And if you're doing it really, really fast, you can expect like 5 or 6 minute clears. Usually about 7-minute clears, though, as long as weird things don't happen. Now, as far as some of the strategies that you can utilize for this speedrun strategy, I'm going to show you exactly how you can set up this special bounty here in addition to Acolytes, too. Actually, last week we couldn't get Acolytes to spawn these bounties. Now we got Acolytes to spawn these bounties from a special strategy. So I'm going to show you from zero how to set this bounty up, and we're going to talk about what frames and weapons you should use to get this going the way that we got it going, basically. Okay, so this is the from zero setting up brute force, okay, with Acolytes too. So as far as how it goes, you start out in your ship or your back rooms or whatever. You go and make sure you're on the steel path. If you can do a normal path too, but steel path gives you more resources. Go to the Cambion Drift. Do not load directly into the city. The reason for this is because if you load directly into the city, you will not get Acolytes, okay? So go into the Cambion Drift, then go back to the city on Steel Path, then you'll start getting Acolytes. Once you've done that, you're going to be grabbing the bounty. The bounty that you're looking for, actually, the bounty for Mother, don't worry about it. As long as you're just picking the Steel Path bounty, all that matters. You're going to actually take that bounty, go into the open world, and abandon it to find the brute force version of that bounty. When I say brute force, that's just the name of the bounty. It's not like any special method to it. So we go to Mother, we grab the Steel Path bounty. No matter what the name is, just grab it, and then go on to the Cambion Drift. Again, now this is why, the reason we do this is because we can actually spawn Acolytes. Now, unfortunately, the Acolytes are capped out to 3, so if you don't really care about Acolytes, don't worry about that part as much. Now that we're on the Cambion Drift, we're going to go ahead and immediately abandon the bounty. The way you do that is just basically start the bounty up, go to the objective, like shoot the tumor node or whatever, and just fly as far away as you possibly can. This is where the group strategy of having Volt on your team will help a lot, because Volt buffs Arcwing speed, and the Cambion Drift is really small. So Volt is extremely helpful here, and also Mesa is the other meta frame for this. The meta for this group strategy is Volt and Mesa. It's as simple as that. You can throw in a Wisp too, but my recommended team strategy for this is 2 Mesas, a Volt, and then I guess a Wisp could be the last one. But yeah, basically just make sure you have 2 Mesas and a Volt, and you should be good to go. And the reason I say, team comp may vary is because the amount of players you have on your team is going to scale how many objectives take. Now that you've abandoned the bounty, go to all the bounty givers and find which one has the brute force bounty. Spoiler, this one in the front door had it for me. So the icon for brute force is those 2 Grenier looking into the air. Now that you grab the bounty, you are basically in farm mode now, okay? So you just do the bounty steps as follows. Use liberal use of the Nightwave button as it skips the dialogue, and these guys yap a lot in this bounty. Now, as far as some new bounty tips here, we're going to show the group strategy here in a second, but a really big thing here is that killing enemies before they come out of spawn pods is very, very bad because it makes the mission take longer, but it seems like some of these bounty steps actually have changed since they first came out in like 2020. One of them being the bounty step that requires you to kill enemies in the circle is like a Netracell circle. Now, you can be in the circle, enemies can be outside the circle, and it does still count. In my video on last week, I said Magus Anomaly will pull them into the circle. That was how it was in 2020. In 2025, you can just kill them while you're in the circle and it counts. So very, very good stuff on that front. Additionally, these enemies are immune to viral procs. So Nourish is basically going to only be there for energy buffing if you use it. So I'd recommend if you have Volt, maybe bring Thermal Transfer because they're weak to Blast now. Okay, so another thing that can save you time on this is sometimes this objective gets one shot. Can't exactly tell you how it happens, but it does sometimes happen. If you want to do like a 5-minute run, sometimes this objective getting one shot does contribute to that. Now, I'm not going to go over the entire bounty here. We're just going to skip around to the parts I want to give you guys new tips on, and then we're going to go over these builds. Now, One of the big bounty steps here I want to tell you guys about is this one right here. This one, you just basically bring the Ogris. So you can shoot through the infested shields with the Kuva Ogris. Any build should do as long as you got Firestorm, and I'd recommend magazine size too. Your Ogris is not being used for damage, it's just being used to shoot through those tumor nodes to complete this bounty step. This bounty step should take you about 20-30 seconds, if that. It's just completely free tokens and Aya as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, on that one, just bring the Ogris and you're good to go. This next one's what I want to tell you guys about, the one where, yeah, the assassination target. Now this is the one you can kill them outside the circle. It does not need to be in the circle like it used to be. So big thing is that if you are in a full stack, it requires a lot more parts to start summon the boss. That's just in general. The more players you have on your team, the more objectives you must complete. And it's very noticeable in the final bounty step, you have to kill more enemies in the Grenadier. It's like, I feel like it's like 100 enemies to kill in that final step of the Grenadier. Whereas in a solo, it's like a quarter of the enemies. So keep that in mind. I would recommend like 2 players, probably 2 to 3 players for this. You could go full 4 stack, like I'll show you the full 4 stack stuff, but yeah, it's a lot. So now, as you see right here, we're in the circle, we're not pulling enemies in. I'm still pulling them in for some reason, but if you kill them outside the circle, it still counts, and don't worry about that too much. And if you want the proof, there you go. That guy was not in the circle. Those guys are definitely not in the circle. It is going up. And as far as if you're in a squad, this part is actually a little bit faster in a squad, because for some reason, the mini boss that spawns after you kill the enemies does not need to be killed when you're in a squad. The next bounty step automatically starts in a squad. I have no idea why that is, but that is how the game works. So, yeah. And as far as after that, just basically kill a bunch of enemies. Oh, sorry about that. And you should be good to go. Now, let's go over some builds here, how you could actually replicate this and go as fast as possible in these missions, because, spoiler, this is going to be really repetitive, so the quicker you can do it, the more efficiently you can do it. Hopefully you won't, like, over here, 45 parts on this one in a full stack versus 15 in a solo. Really, guys, keep that in mind, that might make it slower or faster depending on how your team comp works. So our team was doing great with a 4 stack, but it definitely felt pretty brutal in that last bounty step. So let's go over all this stuff, builds-wise, so you can go as fast as us, hopefully, or maybe even faster. All right, so here we are in the ship, and as far as the weapons and builds, I'm going to show you Mesa's build from last week's video again. So we've got Mesa here with Dispensary from Protea. So we just base it on throwing the Dispensary. It gives us orbs constantly. Those orbs can become energy orbs from Equilibrium. And we've got Arcane Velocity for faster fire rate on Mesa, and also Arcane Aegis for shield regen when we take some damage. This build is pretty standard, low-level stuff for me. Got Rolling Guard, duration, power, strength, etc., etc. If you don't have Prime Sure-Footed, that's okay. Just get some Overguard somehow, and you should be fine. As far as the Ogris build, again, it is not really a special build for this. It's just I basically throw my Profit Taker build and then just call it a day. We got Prime Firestorm, and actually the army build and call it a day. We got Prime Magazine Warp. Again, this stuff's not important. All you need is to really have Prime Firestorm, and Nightwatch Napalm could also help too. But yeah, just make sure you got good magazine size. There's 3 tumor nodes, then the middle tumor node, or like the main tumor node, so 4 shots should be enough to kill all those tumor nodes. For the pistol, I mean, it's not really used at all, but I got the Epitaph equipped. There are some enemies that have Overguard on the Cambion Drift, but there's really not that many, so Fortifier's not amazing, but yeah, if you want to grab that, go ahead. We got the Firax Wraith, technically Incarnate, but you don't need Incarnate. All you need is Amalgam Firax Body Count to give you more fire rate on your Mesa pistols. As far as the focus tree, I got Vazarin just to make me invincible whenever I'm needing to be invincible. Pretty straightforward. I didn't show the Regulator builds in the previous video, but here you go. Again, Fortifier's not super helpful in the Cambion Drift, so maybe go for like Flare instead. But these enemies die relatively fast, especially if you use the Volt build I recommend to you. So don't worry too much about the Arcane. But yeah, Cascadia Flare would probably be better than Secondary Fortifier on this planet. And the reason I got Heat Procs is because I got Orange Shards on Mesa, which gives me more crit chance on my pistols the more Heat Proc kills I get. Unfortunately, I'm not really removing all these shards. These enemies are weak to blast and things like blast and gas, but I'm not really going to be changing my build for that, because they die really fast anyway. As far as the companion, I got the Adarza Kavat. Not extremely important, but I got Cat's Eye, giving my entire team, including me, crit chance on all of our weapons, including Mesa's Peacemaker pistols. If you do activate that special, go into the Cambion Drift, you can get double Steel Essence from Resource Retriever. As far as the Adarza Claws, there's really nothing important here besides just making sure crit chance is high enough for Tenacious Bond. Now, let's move on to Volt. Volt is extremely helpful for this, and the reason for that is because Volt is going to buff your Arcwing movement speed, and Arcwing movement speed is the main method of traversal in the Cambion Drift. So, as far as what you want to run on Volt, The build is not super, like the specific, like, okay, you have to have this little mod here and there. That is not important for the Volt build. What is important is that you have good enough range to make sure your teammates are getting this buff. You want to have high power strength because the Cambion Drift is so small that you can basically get them across the Cambion Drift instantly with a like 300% plus power strength. And additionally, a little bit of duration too. Like I would say make it the build or your speed lasts for about 15 seconds. Should be more than enough. And also if you want to buff your Mesa even more, you could throw on Thermal Transfer or Nourish to give them a elemental buff. I would say Thermal Transfer is a lot more damage because they're weak to Blast, and Thermal Transfer gives a huge chunk of Blast. But keep in mind, Thermal Transfer is a relatively large energy cost for what it does. It's like 77 energy per half of Thermal Transfer, and you need to cast both halves to get the Blast aspect of it. So, yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the Volt builds here, and this will be basically Mesa's best friend. It makes your Arcwing a lot faster, makes the Cambion Drift feel really, really tiny because it is really, really tiny. So, all right, let's go ahead and talk about those right now. Now, as far as Volt's weapons, I would recommend that you still bring the Ogris on Volt, but as far as the DPS weapon, he doesn't have an exalted pistol like Mesa. You can probably bring the Ocucor, that could be pretty good, or something like that. Just make sure you're not shooting the spawn pods. Let Mesa take care of those. Okay, as far as the Volt build though, I've got full power strength Archon shards on Volt. And as far as the build, this is my Plague Star build. I'm just kind of like repurposing it for this right now. But yeah, Sprint Boost works on Arcwings. Volt Speed Multiplier from his 2 works on Arcwings. We've got Thermal Transfer from Gauss, giving blast damage. Pretty good. With this amount of range, it's a 17.4 meter radius, and that's going to give heat and cold damage to our teammates, which makes them very, very deadly to the infested. We also got Shock Trooper for even more damage. This will probably get Mesa one-tapping every single enemy, which is ideal because the faster you kill them, the faster you can do the next bounty step. Rest of that stuff is just to be enough range, make sure our teammates get hit by that. We got a 36 meter radius, not the largest, but it should be good enough for when you're near the objectives on them. There's also got a ton of power strength for Shock Trooper and Thermal Transfer. You might notice there are no survivability mods on here. If you find that you need survivability mods, go ahead and throw them on there, but for me, I don't think I'm going to really need them that badly, especially if you have someone with Vazarin on your team. If you're feeling like you're in danger, always feel free to fly into the air with Arcwing. Enemies are not going to really target you up there as much. All right, moving on to the Ogris. Again, it's the exact same thing, but it's just a different element, I think. So we got magazine size, and that's pretty much it. This will totally work, but you probably want to throw on Firestorm as well. Maybe not go as crazy on the fire rate. For the Ocucor here, I'm going to make a full Ocucor video soon, but this is my old Ocucor builds right here. Again, you're using Volt with Thermal Transfer and Shock Trooper, so the build won't even matter. Everything will just instantly die. So, yeah. We got Corrosive Heat on here and Magnetic. If you throw on Thermal Transfer, Shock Trooper, it's going to be Blast, Electric on top of all that stuff. They're going to get instantly shredded, basically. So really good stuff on there. You could actually throw on Prime Convulsion if you are playing Volt to buff some Electric procs. But yeah, it's not really going to make too big of a difference at this level. And as far as the Kratos, we got this to buff our movement speed, sprint speed, and slide from Drifting Grace, and also parkour velocity from Evolved Ascension. I got Zedarek Focus Tree on here, give you a free ability cast every so often, also gives you an energy bubble. Again, if you do run Nourish Volt instead, just run the exact same kind of idea for a build, but just throw Nourish on there instead. It's going to be the exact same thing, but viral damage instead, which the enemies are not really... Viral's not very good against the Cambion Drift infested, but it's still, like, the energy multiplier is good. That will make it where, when your Mesa's thrown in the dispensary, it's like an entire energy bar refill in, like, one orb, basically, so really good on that front. Alright, as far as the last couple things on here, guys, we have the Kubrau doesn't really matter, but you can throw on Kubrau to, like, give you some more loot, maybe. Again, these Acolytes only spawn 3 total, so if you want to really farm Acolytes, you go into the Cambion Drift, spawn your 3 Acolytes, leave, and then spawn them over, and then you'd, like, re-roll every 3 bounties. I wouldn't recommend that, but if you guys do want those Acolytes, again, I want to show you guys the method of how you can acquire that. So, yeah, and then here's the final bounty step. Again, if you have a full 4-stack, you're going to be doing the other bounty steps faster because you're going to have Volt, you're going to have a second Mesa watching the area. But this final bounty step is brutal in a 4-stack. So that is the one thing I'd maybe warn you about, is if you are planning to do a full, like, everyone from your clan, like all 4 people from your clan just joining a squad, you just got to remember that it might end up being a little bit slower at the end depending on how the kills go. This is the part that's very crucial to this is why Mesa is meta. If you kill these guys before they come out of the spawn pods, the progress bar does not go up, okay? And Mesa will not target them until they get out of the spawn pod. So highly recommend Mesa on this, and I highly recommend Volt on this. Wisp can be here too, but these enemies are not really dealing enough damage to me that I really think I need Wisp. And also, don't forget, Wisp speed multiplier is lower than Volt. So if you want to stack Volt and Wisp together, be my guest. But again, the Cambion Drift is so small that just Volt speed should be enough to get you across there, like, instantly. So that's basically it for the video, guys. Pretty decent IF farm here. Very, very good Mother Token farm to get those Sentient Surge mods or whatever you want to get from the vendors. So I'll see you guys on stream tonight. We got Marvel Rivals sponsor stream tonight and some giveaways, and I'll see you guys next time. Take it easy. Peace.